Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut is a short story that captures an interesting moment in a dystopia. Dystopias are always interesting to look at because they inherently include a problem, an oxymoron. On the one hand, development and evolution should lead to improvement. On the other hand, the very concept of a dystopia entails that something must have gone wrong. Also, on the surface, a dystopia pretends to be a utopia, while in reality it is the antipode of a utopia. Harrison Bergeron paints a society that is obsessed with complete and utter equality between all the citizens of the USA. In this video, we'll go through the plot and try to look into the moral philosophy of egalitarianism and the attacks against egalitarianism. We're in the year 2081, and the narrator starts by saying that finally it's here, total, complete and unconditioned equality. Nobody is more intelligent than anybody else. Nobody is better looking than anybody else. Nobody is faster than anybody else. All Americans are equal in terms of looks and capabilities. This complete equality was achieved thanks to the 211th, 212th and 213th Amendments to the Constitution. You might wonder how that is achieved, and it is not through genetic modification. Devices, tools and gimmicks are used to achieve that sameness. The fact that this is not achieved through some gigantic scientific leap in genetics is the first indication of the mediocrity that plagues this world. People whose intelligence is beyond average wear earpieces that send annoying sounds whenever that extra intelligence tries to manifest. Good-looking individuals wear masks to hide their faces. Fast and agile folks wear extra weight in the form of heavy bags attached around the necks to neutralize their agility. All this strict application of the utter equality amendments is maintained by the handicapper general who commands a law enforcement unit. She's a high-ranking official, she's a woman, and her name is Diana Moon Glampus, and her title explains what she does. She handicaps down whoever manifests any superiority. She has executive power and is entrusted with maintaining that cherished equality. This obsession with equality is supposed to theoretically improve people's quality of life. We're introduced to the Bergerons. They're a couple with a 14-year-old son who has been arrested by the government. Hazel Bergeron has average intelligence. George Bergeron is more intelligent than average and is built stronger than average. Consequently, he wears a device in his ear. The device is constantly monitored and its function is to inhibit George from using more intelligence than is normal and being at an unfair advantage. He also wears a bag of extra weight, 46 pounds, attached to a chain around his neck. Their son Harrison Bergeron is arrested, but his parents can't comprehend properly the situation. Hazel can't comprehend it because her intelligence is average, and we get a sense of where that average stands. The average is pretty low because she can't even understand that her son is arrested. George can't understand the situation because as soon as his intelligence pops its head, it is inhibited by constant loud sounds that the government broadcasts directly in his ears. The couple is watching television. There's a ballet dance show and the ballerinas are wearing heavy chains and masks. They cannot show off their beauty or agility to the viewers. The viewers have neither the good looks nor the gracefulness of professional ballerinas. Without the masks and the chains, the viewers would feel bad about themselves and the principle of equality will be broken. The show is naturally mediocre, as is everything else in the world of the story. Mediocrity is referred to as normalcy though. Hazel sees that her husband George is tired and she suggests he remove some of the weight around his neck. He vehemently refuses. He reminds her that he could get in trouble if he broke the law, or even worse, things could go back to from before the amendments. Hazel concedes that that would be terrible. We're not told anything more about how things were from before the amendments, but we understand that society was under some form of elitism and things were nasty. The Bergerons consider that the utter equality amendments are a great thing that saved society. The unspectacular ballet show is interrupted by a stuttering mediocre television presenter who frantically and quite that painfully tries to read a news bulletin, but can't. He asks a ballerina to read it, and she does. Her voice is nice and clean in the beginning, then she realizes a mistake and starts stuttering and acting as if she couldn't read properly in order not to sound superior to the previous presenter or to the viewers. The breaking news is about the escape of the dangerous individual called Harrison Bergeron, and his photo is displayed to the viewers. What's striking is his impressive height. He's 6 feet tall and he's shown to be wearing everything that is supposed to downgrade his natural abilities. His face is hidden under paint, a clown nose and gigantic glasses. He has a disturbance-causing device around his ears, and around his neck is attached a bag of 300 pounds of extra weight. Now compare that to his father's bag of 42 pounds. It shows how strong Harrison is. He is the opposite of average. Then quite unexpectedly, Harrison himself bursts into the studio, shouting and proclaiming himself to be the emperor. He defiantly tears out all the handicapping gimmicks he's wearing. He addresses the ballerinas and tells them that the first one to stand up and join him on his revolt will be the empress. One of them does stand up. He welcomes her and rips her handicaps. She turns out to be a beautiful fit girl. He leads the musician on stage to play loud music, to which he gracefully dances with the ballerina. The way they dance is surreal. They glide, they almost fly in the air, and in the midst of their ecstatic triumph over the philosophy of their society, the general handicapper Diana Glampers, with a team of law enforcers, enters into the studio and shoots down Harrison and his ballerina. Glampers commands the musicians to handicap down, and they do. Then the broadcast is interrupted. George misses this last part to the broadcast. He's been in a kitchen getting a beer. He comes back to where the telly is. He asks Hazel why it looks like she's been crying. She tells him that something on television must have made her weep. She doesn't remember any of it though. George tells her that it's good not to remember saddening things. George's intelligence is about to enable him to get a grasp of the situation, but it's immediately curbed by the sound of a riveting gun. Now, the story depicts a society obsessed with achieving complete equality. The underlying philosophical theory around which the society in the story is built, albeit in a caricatured manner, is egalitarianism, and particularly one type of egalitarianism, Locke egalitarianism. It's the idea that it is immoral for a person to be worse than any other person due to no fault of his. So if a person didn't do anything, didn't make any wrong choices, the person must not lead a worse life than any other person. This targets directly people's genetic makeup, social determinism, and all types of determinism. So nobody should be shorter than anybody else because we don't do anything to deserve how tall we grow. The only thing that should determine how good a person's life is the person's choices. The philosopher behind this view is John Rawls and his concept of distributive justice. He denounces how a person's inborn talents, looks, and abilities determine how justice is distributed, and that is completely unfair. A civilized society should do better than succumb to lottery. Locke egalitarianism provides a deeper appreciation of the concept of justice. It doesn't necessarily entail handicapping down to eradicate unearned superiority. Another theory that builds on Locke egalitarianism is Welfarism. According to Welfarism, the ultimate goal of any society should be to achieve well-being for everybody. Well-being is the most important value. Now, how you go about doing that is open to interpretation, and here political philosophy comes into play. There are different political philosophies that address how society could be organized in a way that ensures well-being for everybody. There are also different understandings of what that well-being is about. The strongest attack on egalitarianism is the leveling down objection formulated by Derek Parfit. It challenges the egalitarian assumption that it is objectively good to neutralize the inequality of outcome by lowering the well-being of the better-offs to match the well-being of the worse-offs. For example, in a hypothetical world populated by 100 people, let's say 70 people are wealthy and 30 are poor. In accordance with egalitarianism, if there is no way to make the 30 as wealthy wealthy as the 70, it should be welcome to demote the 70 people from their position of wealth to one of poverty, and thus to achieve equality of outcome. The levelling down objection points the finger at the absurdity of this situation, and this is how the argument is presented. 1. For egalitarianism to be a solid theory, the change it calls for should create something good for at least one single person. 2. In a case the egalitarian action fails to produce any good, egalitarianism as a theory collapses. 3. By levelling down the 70 wealthy people to make them as poor as the 30, we neither improve the condition of the 30 nor the 70. Nobody benefits from the egalitarian action. 4. Egalitarianism collapses as it doesn't lead to any good for anybody. The Harrison Bergeron story depicts the levelling down objection in the form of a failing society that in the name of egalitarianism demotes everybody's condition to meet a mediocre average. Now, an egalitarian could respond and would respond to the levelling down objection by saying that the theory's force is not to be judged by any material good. Achieving equality is intrinsically good. Add to that the state of mind of the 30 people, which unquestionably improves when the 70 better-offs are no longer better-offs. The 30 paupers will have their self-esteem boosted and will be happier. The story definitely denounces egalitarianism, but it doesn't say that elitist meritocracy is the answer. Harrison Bergeron is not a great reformer. He's driven by conceit and he runs directly to his perdition. He lives a short moment of selfish glory and loses. We're also told that things before the amendments were nasty and nobody wants to go back to that. So what is the answer? Complete equality in the name of egalitarianism doesn't work. Good old meritocracy rewards and punishes people for things they didn't do anything to deserve, like their biological makeups. This is how puzzling the human condition is. Ecce homo. Behold the man. We're in an unfair world playing an unfair game. Now this video has reached its end. Until we meet again, have a great day.